Fans are calling this the worst era in Disney Channel history. Yes, the channel that gave us Kim Possible, Phineas and Ferb, and Gravity Falls seems to have lost its magic. So, what happened to the Disney Channel we all knew and loved? Remember when Disney Channel was the go-to place for quality animated entertainment? Shows like Recess, The Proud Family, and American Dragon. Jake Long had us glued to our screens. They were funny, relatable, and full of heart. Missing an episode of Kim Possible felt like a national emergency. These days, missing an episode of the latest Disney cartoon feels like, well, nothing much at all. The early 2000s to the early 2010 was undeniably the golden era of Disney Channel cartoons. We had iconic characters, catchy theme songs, and storylines that balanced humor with life lessons. These shows weren't just entertaining. They were cultural touchstones that defined a generation. Fast forward to today, and it feels like Disney Channel has lost its way. The shows seem to lack the same charm and creativity. Many fans argue that the current lineup is forgettable, with series that feel more like generic cartoons rather than the unique, imaginative series we grew up with. The shows nowadays feel like they're written by algorithms. There's no soul or creativity anymore. I miss the days when Disney Channel cartoons had memorable characters and catchy theme songs. Now I can't even remember the names of the characters. The humor feels forced, and the storylines are just recycled cliches. Where's the originality? One major criticism is the oversaturation of spin-offs and reboots. Instead of creating fresh, original content, Disney Channel seems to be banking on nostalgia by reviving old favorites. While it's great to see familiar faces, these reboots often fail to capture the essence of the originals. With the announcements of sequels like Moana 2, Toy Story 5, and Frozen 3, it's obvious that Disney's creative well is running dry.
To infinity and beyond!
Disney, once hailed as a beacon of creativity and imagination in the entertainment industry, now faces a lot of criticism over its alleged decline in originality. There is a widespread belief that Disney's creative innovation has declined over time. People think that the House of Mouse isn't being creative anymore for a number of reasons, including the large number of remakes and sequels, and worries about formulaic storytelling and corporate goals. Disney's CEO Bob Iger has confirmed the release window for Toy Story 5, giving fans a glimpse into when they can expect to see Woody and Buzz Lightyear back on the big screen. In 2019, Toy Story 4 was released, initially thought to be the last installment in the series that has earned a staggering $3.3 billion at the box office. Surprisingly, Iger made an announcement a year ago about the development of a fifth film. I read this one article that posted about it. It said, and I quote, "This sequel opens our minds up to many questions. When will it be released? Who will direct the film? Will we see Buzz and Woody back together again? Will Forky still be a main character? And I remember thinking that is not the first question that comes to anybody's mind when hearing about a Toy Story 5. It's more along the lines of, please let Toy Story go. What more is there to talk about? With all of the writers, a cooperation like Disney has, nobody can come up with an original idea. Frozen 3 is in the works, and there might be a Frozen 4 in the works too. It's the lack of originality for me. It's Disney's penchant for churning out sequels to popular franchises. The company seems to be prioritizing commercial success over creative risk-taking. It reminds me of when Disney announced its shift away from traditional 2D animation. A lot of Disney fans grew up with classic Disney 2D animated films like either The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin. These films were renowned not only for their storytelling, but also for the craftsmanship and artistry of hand-drawn animation. The transition to computer-generated imagery, CGI, was perceived by some as a departure from the traditional animation techniques that defined Disney's golden age. A lot of fans simply preferred the aesthetic of 2D animation over CGI, and yet, hand-drawn animation had a unique charm and warmth that is distinct from the slick, polished look of computer-generated animation. For many, the fluidity and expressiveness of 2D animation evoke a sense of nostalgia and a connection to the classic Disney films of the past. The shift towards CGI animation was seen by some as a homogenization of Disney's artistic style. But while CGI offers new possibilities for visual storytelling, it also has a tendency to standardize character designs and animation techniques. Some fans lamented the loss of the diverse range of art styles and techniques that were showcased in Disney's 2D animated films, fearing that the move towards CGI would result in a more uniform and less imaginative visual landscape. The age of Disney and Pixar taking risks and creating new film is gone. Original ideas are just not a thing anymore. But honestly, you gave them a chance to come up with something original, and then they gave us Wish. Fans were not pleased, stating that it was lackluster and uninspiring. And for their 100th anniversary at that, it was underwhelming. The witty, clever scripts that once defined Disney channels seem to have been replaced with overly simplistic and predictable storylines. The animation, too, often feels less detailed and more cookie cutter. Compare this to the multifaceted characters of shows like Gravity Falls, and the difference is stark. I guess we can't discuss the decline of Disney Channel without mentioning the rise of streaming services. Platforms like Netflix, Hulu, and Disney Plus offer a plethora of high-quality content that competes directly with traditional TV channels. With so many options available, Disney Channel has struggled to keep up. Ironically, Disney's own streaming service, Disney Plus, has siphoned off much of the talent and resources that might have gone into creating great Disney Channel content. Shows like The Mandalorian and WandaVision have set a new standard for what audiences expect from Disney, making it even harder for Disney Channel to compete. Another factor to consider is the shift in target audience. Disney Channel has always aimed to cater to kids and preteens, but it seems to be skewing younger and younger. The shows feel more juvenile, which might explain why older fans feel alienated. Tiny One's Transport Service is a show clearly designed for very young viewers. While it's cute and colorful, it lacks the depth and relatability that older Disney Channel shows had. It might be great if you're 5 years old, but for everyone else, it's like trying to have a deep conversation with a cartoon penguin. Disney Channel used to be known for its complex narratives and characters that grew over time. Shows like Gravity Falls and Kim Possible had overarching storylines that kept viewers invested. Amphibia is one of the few recent shows that attempt to bring back some of that complexity. Remember the days when Disney Channel gave us unforgettable characters like Ron Stoppable, Terry the Platypus, and Dipper Pines? These characters were more than just cartoons. They were icons. Cartoons like The Owl House has attempted to bring some fresh, unique characters to the table. I saw one fan say that Disney has grown far too accustomed to its own success. They tried to surpass their rivals, which is why they were successful in the first place. These days, all they do is buy their rivals whenever they feel like it. Funny enough, DreamWorks Animation had attempted to compete by duplicating the Disney formula, but failed miserably, with the exception of The Prince of Egypt. Ironically, Shrek, a movie that poked fun at fantasy tropes and became somewhat of a Disney spoof, ended up becoming their most successful animated film. Then there is the historical lack of diversity and representation in its films and television shows. For decades, Disney's animated films featured predominantly white, heterosexual protagonists, with limited representation of people of color, LGBTQ+ characters, and other marginalized groups. While Disney has made efforts to improve diversity and representation in recent years, such as with the release of Moana and Black Panther, there is still a lot of work to be done to ensure that Disney's content reflects the diversity of its audience. It's evident, as some fans feel, as if Disney really wanted to represent communities that historically have not been properly represented in the past, then they should write a good plot around these characters. It feels like they're just saying, hey look, there's a insert minority here. Character in this movie, give us money. And then they try again with a show like Primos and completely miss the mark. It's really sad to think about. Disney was my childhood and for a lot of us, our escape, but while nostalgia can be a powerful marketing tool, it can also serve as a double-edged sword, leading to a reluctance to embrace new ideas and creative directions. Some critics say that Disney's dependence on nostalgia has stopped the company from coming up with new ideas because it keeps going through its old movies to make reboots, sequels, and spin-offs instead of trying out new ideas that haven't been tried before. It used to be fun to see trailers for new movies like Captain America. Now it seems like all we're seeing are ads for the same stories and plots that we've seen a million times before. It's no longer fresh and exciting. We are truly in an era where record labels, major film studios, and even video game developers are collapsing because people no longer want to support the mediocre content being produced. There can be no improvement without criticism or pressure from others. It's true that Disney has become self-satisfied, and everyone notices. For the time being, they may believe that they're unbeatable, but they will quickly understand this is not the case, and the cycle will begin again. After all, this season will end eventually, and I want Disney to flourish by making changes. But let me know what you think. What's your take on the current state of Disney Channel cartoons? Do you think it's the worst era, or do you see a glimmer of hope? Let's get the conversation started in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into your favorite shows and channels.